Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Thoughtful Digest. We are unwinding today with another interesting idea. One evening, I came across something really interesting. It wasn't a motivational speech or a productivity hack, it also wasn't another morning routine promising to change my life. It was just one sentence. Great changes are a result of many small improvements. I stopped reading for a moment. We have spent years believing that big goals required big actions. But what if that belief itself was the problem? Think about nature for a second. You never see a tree growing. You never watch a flower bloom, minute by minute. You never notice your hair growing or even your nails getting longer. The biggest changes in life usually happen so slowly that you don't even notice them until one day we look back and realize everything is different. Maybe growth has always been quiet and we have just been too busy looking something for loud. There's a Japanese philosophy that is entirely built around this idea. It doesn't ask you to become a different person tomorrow. It simply asks, what is the one small thing you can do today that makes tomorrow a little bit better? That philosophy is called Kaizen. And tonight, I don't want to teach it to you. I just want to explore it together because I have a feeling this simple idea might change the way both of us think. So, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and let's begin. So, what is Kaizen? The word itself comes from Japan, and Kaizen simply means continuous improvement or change for the better. Simple, right? But don't let that simplicity fool you because behind these two small words lies an idea that has influenced millions of people around the world. Let me tell you a story. After World War II, Japan faced the enormous challenge of rebuilding its industries. The factories had been damaged, resources were limited, and the country had to find a way to move forward. During those years, many Japanese companies embraced a simple philosophy of continuous improvement, a philosophy known as Kaizen. Instead of searching for one revolutionary breakthrough, they focused on making small improvements every single day. One decision slightly better. Over time, those small improvements begin to compound, and that mindset became one of the defining characteristics of companies like Toyota that helped Japan's global reputation for quality. A big reason behind that is Kaizen. Kaizen isn't about chasing perfection, it's about respecting the progress. And honestly, I think there's something deeply human about that. Because that's how real life usually works, right? We don't become healthier by going to the gym once for 5 hours. We become healthier by showing up each time. We don't build strong friendship through one grand gesture. We build them through small conversations, small act of kindness. These small improvements repeated consistently create extraordinary results. That's the heart of Kaizen. That tiny steps taken every day will eventually take you to somewhere you never imagined. So, how do we actually bring Kaizen into our daily lives? Something most of us struggle with, let's say fitness. Imagine two people. Person A decides to completely transform their life. They are doing 2 hours of workouts, strict diet, no sugar, no junk food, perfect morning routine. B person makes a much smaller promise. I'm simply going to walk for 30 minutes every evening. After few months, if you had to guess, who do you think will still be following their routine? More often than not, it's the B person. Because habits grow through repetition, not intensity. The same idea applies to reading. Many people buy 10 books by just feeling inspired one day, but after reading 20 pages, they stop. Now imagine someone else who read just 5 pages every night before bed. 5 pages, that's all. At first, it feels insignificant, but by the end of the year, those tiny reading sessions could turn into several finished books. Knowledge that didn't just arrive overnight, it accumulated quietly. The same is true for saving money. Instead of saying, I am never going to spend on unnecessary things again, try asking yourself, what's one expense you can reduce this week? Maybe it's ordering one less coffee. Maybe it's just canceling a subscription which you already were not using. That small decision, repeated consistently, will create your financial freedom. And here's something I have been personally working on myself. I used to wait for big achievements to celebrate. Like once I get promoted, then only it's time for celebration. But what about those tough days when I was barely able to complete one simple office task? What about those days when I was not feeling well but still showed up for that important meeting? We often celebrate those big achievements, losing 20 kgs, finishing a degree, starting a business, but we rarely celebrate the tiny decisions that made those achievements possible. The early mornings, those difficult conversations, the short walk even on a tough day, the choice to keep going even when nobody was watching. Those small moments deserve a little bit more appreciation, right? Because without them, the bigger moments would never exist. There's another quote I really like. This one is from Confucius. It doesn't not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. I think that's exactly what Kaizen sounds like. Not rushing, not comparing yourself with someone who is 10 years ahead of you. Just quietly asking yourself, what can I improve today? Not next month, not next year, today. And then tomorrow, ask the same question again. That's how your discipline will grow. That's how a completely different life is slowly going to build, one ordinary day at a time. Now, you must be thinking how to apply Kaizen into your daily life. Here are some practical tips for you to follow. Number 1, start embarrassingly small. Divide your goals into small tasks so your brain can say how small and insignificant this is. Let's say if your goal is to read 20 books a year, don't aim for 50 pages at once. Read one page, that's it. If your goal is to start meditating, don't promise yourself of 45 minutes of morning meditation. That's not going to work. Start with 2 minutes of guided meditation. The goal isn't just to impress yourself. The goal is to make start so easy that you cannot say no to. Number 2, improve just one thing at a time. One of the biggest mistakes we make is trying to change everything at once. Our work, our relationship, our habits. Instead, pick one area of your life, just one, give it your full attention until it becomes part of who you are, and then you can move on to the next. Number 3, reflect. What became just a little bit better today? Maybe you learned something new. Maybe you stayed calm in a difficult conversation. Or maybe you simply kept a promise to yourself. Progress doesn't always need applause. Sometimes it just needs to be noticed. Number 4, focus on consistency. Life will interrupt your plans. You'll miss days. You'll make mistakes. That's normal. Kaizen doesn't ask you to be perfect. It simply asks you to begin again every single time. Number 5, trust the process. Some changes takes weeks to notice. Others may take months. But have faith in the process and ask yourself, am I becoming a little bit better than I was last month? Because that's where the real changes happens, quietly, one small step at a time. If you can remember just these 5 ideas, you'll already be living the philosophy of Kaizen. I think we should talk about few mistakes which will happen in this process. Because I believe this is where most people misunderstand Kaizen. They think small improvements will mean small results. But that's not true. only small improvements, repetitive over a long period of time, can create extraordinary results. It's like planting a seed. On the first day, nothing seems to happen, but after watering and nurturing that seed daily, it turns into a plant. Our habits work in the same way. For a long period, it feels like nothing is changing. And this is exactly where many people quit. Not because the habit wasn't working, but because the results were invisible. There's a famous quote by James Clear that I have always found very meaningful. Habits are compound interest of self improvement. Think about that. Just like money grows through compound interest, your habit grows through consistency, not motivation, consistency. Another reason is comparison. One of the biggest reasons people struggle with self improvement today is comparing themselves. We spend so much time looking at people who are years ahead of us. We compare our first week to someone's 10th, and then we wonder why we feel behind. But Kaizen teaches us something very different. It asks you to stop competing with everyone else and instead become a slightly better than the person you were yesterday. That's a much kinder way to live, right? And honestly, a much more sustainable one. I'd also like to share something that have slowly changed my life. Most of the things that have truly impacted me didn't happen because of one big decision. They happened because of dozens of tiny decisions. Example, my choosing to read instead of watching Netflix, choosing to save instead of spending on a random weekend, choosing to going for a walk instead of just staying on the couch. None of the choices felt life changing in that moment. But looking back, they quietly changed the direction of my life. Maybe that's how change has always worked, quietly, patiently, without asking for applause. So tonight, I leave you with one simple question. If you had to become just 1% better, what would that look like? Would you wake up 10 minutes earlier? Would you finally read that one chapter you have been postponing? Would you call someone you have been meaning to talk to? Take those baby steps because progress has never belonged to the fastest person. It has always belonged to the person who kept going. One day you'll look back and realize those tiny steps were quietly carrying you towards a life you once thought was impossible. Thank you for spending these few moments with me. If this conversation gave you something to think about or encouraged you in some small way, I'd really appreciate if you subscribe. Every week, we'll explore another timeless idea from books, philosophy, psychology, and everyday life. Not to become perfect, but to become just a little bit better. Until next time, take care of yourself and remember, great lives are rarely built through extraordinary moments. They're built through ordinary moments repeated with extraordinary consistency. Good night, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.